Hello and welcome to official Xbox 360 Magazine's OXM report. This week we're talking to BioWare about Dragon Age 2, which might not be the impenetrable RPG you think it is.
Cool, so I'm here with Fernando, who's a senior producer on Dragon Age 2. So a lot of people find these fantasy RPGs quite daunting. I mean, what are you doing to make it more accessible for a wider audience?
Yeah, well, one of the key goals for us was to try to make it a lot more accessible for players. So the first thing is you don't need to have played Dragon Age Origins. Dragon Age 2 is a great jumping on point. We've also made the combat a lot more streamlined, so you'll be able to basically push a button and something awesome happens. So you don't have to worry about the tactics or any of that kind of stuff. It's all there. If you're a fan of Dragon Age Origins, we haven't taken any of that away if you want. But for the most part, you can pick up a controller and start mashing buttons and awesome stuff starts to happen, which is great.
If I'm running in and smashing things, are my team members going to be able to take care of themselves?
Oh yeah, I mean they actually do a really good job of it. Of course, you can jump in and take over any one of them and give them direct commands and all that kind of stuff if you want. But for the most part, you can just focus on your character and let them do their thing and they'll back you up.
Okay, so in terms of the sort of complexity of the tactics system, I mean, you can pretty much micromanage everything they'll do even when you're not looking after them directly, right?
Yeah, there's a pretty extensive tactics system where you can set up rules. For example, if I'm being attacked, stop what you're doing, come and help me, or heal me if you're a mage, that kind of thing. For the most part, the default tactics that are set up are quite good. If you start cranking up into higher difficulty levels, like go into hard or nightmare mode, you'll probably want to do some tweaks. And also as you're creating your characters, as they're leveling up and you're giving them new abilities and things, you'll want to make sure that you customize those to get the most out of them.
So you've got characters that need to get in close to do damage. You've got guys who are kind of more ranged and stuff. What kind of players do you think those roles will suit?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's quite a lot of variety. We have 3 base classes. You have warriors who really are set up to kind of deal lots of damage to lots of enemies. They tend to get swarmed around. They wield massive 2-handed swords, and they just chop things in half by the dozen. You have rogues that are a lot more nimble. They're kind of like ninjas on the battlefield. They're super acrobatic. They can hop in and hop out of stuff, backstab people, go into hiding. And we also have mages, which are kind of like field artillery. They just cast spells from a distance, rain down fire from the sky, that kind of thing. And the neat thing is when you actually get the combination of those 3 things going, we have something called cross-class combos. So what that means is, for example, rogue could actually use certain abilities to set up an enemy where now a warrior or a mage can finish them off, and it'll actually be able to take down that enemy a lot faster.
Was it a challenge for you guys? Because obviously you'd done a sort of more traditional job with the first Dragon Age game. Was it tough to do something that kind of has to stand shoulder to shoulder with hack and slash action games?
Yes and no. I mean, it was a real challenge that we wanted to take on. I think probably the easiest thing for us would have been at the end of Origins, we build Dragon Age 1.5, which is we leave everything as is and just change the story up or something. The team really rose to the challenge. And we created something that was really equally accessible, and I think we're going to see something which is really, really amazing on the 360.
But presumably, if you're in love with the old system, you can still play Dragon Age 2 like that, right?
Absolutely. We haven't taken anything away from Origins. In fact, there's even more depth to it now that we've added in, but it's all kind of subtly there. So if you're a Dragon Age Origins fan, you'll be able to get to it and experience that. Or if you're into a lot more tactics, you can go and do that. But for the most part, the initial layer of just being able to jump on and start firing off abilities and have, creatures sort of just break apart in front of you and stuff is all there, and you'll be able to just jump right in and go.
I imagine with RPGs that you're kind of wading through lots of small enemies, but you guys have some pretty show-stopping bosses. I had my butt handed to me by a rock wraith a bit earlier.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the fun part as well. So the game is kind of divided up into major acts, and usually at the end of an act, there's kind of a big boss character or fight that you have to go through. And again, up until that point, you have lots of different kind of enemies. They're sort of like mini bosses or lieutenants and things like that. You also have lots and lots of mobs, so there's a lot of fun just kind of wading through hundreds of smaller enemies in your path. But when you kind of hit some of these bosses, you really want to have your team sort of work together, and it takes a while to take them down, but it's super satisfying.